Sneasler to support them as well. So Sneasler isn't just going for damage. We'll have to see if it comes to the match whatsoever, but it is that Electabuzz, it is that Magmar on the field. The only difference being a Primarina and Dragonite as a difference between these two trainers' leads.
Yeah, so not going for any kind of mirror leads at all. This is totally different between the two players. Yes, there is follow me redirection for both Pokemon. That won't really help the Magmar against a Hyper Voice that could be coming out through Primarina, which will allow it to set up that Throat Spray and start to do some really good damage. The Dragonite could be kept safe from a Moonblast coming out from the Magmar, meaning it doesn't have to go for a Terra this turn, and probably actually doesn't want to yet, just because the Electro Webs could be coming out from the Electabuzz, which would turn super effective to be able to break the multi-scale and kind of cancel out a Dragon Dance as well. So maybe you just go on the offense immediately with your Dragonite here, and Electabuzz actually the fastest Pokemon on the field here.
Magmar getting its speed dropped, Dragonite getting its speed dropped, so Primarina gets to go first and launch out a Hyper Voice. Throat Spray activating, boosting its special attack. Gonna make sure that the Moonblast, after now the multi-scale on the Dragonite has been broken, it's gonna be able to do much more damage, but Dragonite gets to respond with a Stomping Tantrum. You can see how useful the Eviolite item is on the Electabuzz, taking those two attacks like an absolute champ. Little critical hit on the Primarina, little burn going off onto the Electabuzz. Francesco's probably happy about those extra little bits of damage, because in this sort of matchup where things are so close, those little bits of extra damage matter.
Yeah, and that turn surely went to Nicolo there, because you've got the Dragonite and the Magmar speed dropped, and the fact that the Primarina outsped both of them after just one Electro Web means that you can just go on the offense straight away, but now with your +1 special attack thanks to the Throat Spray, you can't safely go for a Moonblast into the Dragonite because that Magmar could still go for the Follow Me, and if you do go for Follow Me, the Dragonite is surviving the turn for sure, but going for a Dragon Dance, which it does want to be doing here, well, it could just take a second Electro Web, and then the Dragon Dance is even more cancelled out. Even just getting back up to neutral, that didn't outspeed the Electabuzz here, which at least it is switching out, so there's not going to be a second Electro Web.
And it's going to be a Dragapult coming in for that Electabuzz there, and a Terra option. Francesco clicking that button and going for his Terra flying onto the Dragonite. So a really good call here. Both being able to be defensive in the Primarina's Moonblast now will not be doing super effective damage. Certainly not into the Dragonite, because it's going to be a Follow Me from the Magmar, redirecting the Moonblast into it. The Eviolite coming in clutch here with the Magmar just taking that attack, and of course a call here from Francesco, getting that Terra Blast into the Primarina and getting some damage on the board.
Yeah, really good damage there, and very nicely done to Follow Me away that Moonblast that was surely targeting into that Dragonite, because if that would have been a Hyper Voice, that's a KO Magmar, and now the Dragonite went for the Terra Flying. It would have been a neutral hit and actually done some very reasonable damage with the previously broken multi-scale thanks to that first Hyper Voice. However, that switching into the Dragapult, very, very nicely done here, because now you threaten the Dragon Darts into both the Magmar, which would KO, and then the second Darts will still go into Dragonite, even if it was a Follow Me clicks into Magmar, because those Dragon Darts are so smart at targeting. And then the Primarina, we already know, outspeeds the Dragonite. Surely a Choice Band Dragon Darts into a Moonblast or even Hyper Voice, now that it's a flying type, should be able to pick up the KO on this Dragonite.
We'll have to see. Follow Me coming out from the Magmar, just making sure that it's going to be targeting into that slot. But there's no Dragon Darts this turn, just a Phantom Force. I quite like that, the preparation for what could be happening next turn, making sure that Phantom Force, which breaks through Protect, is set up. The question is, where did the Phantom Force target? Certainly the Dragapult as well gets to just avoid any damage from that Terra Blast.
Yeah, very interesting Phantom Force there. There could have been a KO with the Dragon Darts, but yeah, you can't protect from this Phantom Force, so if it is targeting into that Dragonite slot, there is nothing that Francesco can do about it. Primarina should be able to survive the Phantom Force, but yeah, it's into the Dragonite. That's an easy KO.
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe it was into what was the Primarina slot, because the second Hyper Voice here could have knocked out the Dragonite, but Nicolo playing that really safely, really consistently, but Francesco gets to reply back, and it looks like the debate is not between which dragon is the best, it's which Primarina is going to be on the field at the end of the game.
Well, it seems like it's going to be Nicolo's, because it's already got the +1 special attack boost and now has dropped the Primarina special attack on Francesco's side thanks to that Moonblast Moonblast, getting that secondary effect of the special attack drop. Here comes the Sneasler. Here comes the Sneasler for both players. So now we're down to the Sneasler versus Primarina endgame, but Nicolo surely has the one-up as well because there is still that Electabuzz waiting in the back.
It's going to make a big difference because the redirection and Sneasler only being able to target one Pokemon, there's no spread damage available to either player from their Sneasler. Going to make a big difference, as is whether or not this is a speed tie. Likely is because they're both carrying a Focus Sash, but also whether or not any Diaclaw activations go on to each other as they're targeting down each other in the end game. Now, Nicolo, because of that Electabuzz, is going to get more opportunities here, but there is a option for a Protect on Nicolo Sneasler.
Yeah, very smartly done there. A double Protect going to be stalling out the Fake Out, so no Focus Sash broken on the Sneasler on Nico's side of the field. It was a Fake Out from the Sneasler, and it did target the opposing Sneasler here, so potentially going for that speed tie win if the Sneasler had gone for a Fake Out into the Primarina on Francesco's side of the field. It was a double up with a Moonblast into that Sneasler as well, so Nicolo could have gone on the offensive with a Primarina, but just playing it safe on this turn.
Now, the difference here is that while Nicolo has gone for Protect on that turn, Francesco hasn't gone for the Protect, and that gives Francesco a few more options in this scenario. Can try to play for Protect and Diaclaw onto Nicolo's Primarina. If the Primarina switches out into the Electabuzz, that's already taken a lot of damage, so it would probably be knocked out on that turn. But instead, we're going to get the Primarina on Nicolo's side, finally getting the Terra going, turning into the Terra Poison. Big impact here. Poison resisting Diaclaw and close combat.
Yeah, very nicely done there. Diaclaw into the Sneasler on Nicolo's side of the field, going for maybe a secondary effect. Nope, no Diaclaw secondary effect here. And into the non-terrored Primarina, Nicolo's Diaclaw from Sneasler is easily able to pick up the knockout on that Primarina on Francesco's side of the field. The Primarina was not attacked this turn. Hyper Voice easily going to break that Focus Sash. Again, I keep saying break Focus Sash when it brings down to Focus Sash. And yeah, this Sneasler is not going to be able to 1v3 this.
No, only to be able to target one Pokemon at a time is Sneasler's downfall in this situation where you've got more than one Pokemon, and both Pokemon on Nicolo's side of the field have 100% accurate moves. So there it is, the Diaclaw. I'm impressed by Francesco Sneasler at this point. It's managed to win the speed tie at least twice in a row. So that could speak maybe to the training of Nicolo Sneasler. There is the decision that you have to make whether or not you go for a speed boosting or an attack boosting nature in the way that you train your Pokemon. So it could be a little bit of a window in there, but we'll have to see. Both of these trainers will, of course, have a good idea of that. Now, Francesco wasn't quite able to pull things forward. He just wasn't able to get the damage on the board as quickly as possible, and that Electabuzz was causing Francesco quite a lot of issues. Jamie, looking at Game 2 now, what are you thinking for switch-ups?
Yeah, well, it didn't seem like the Magmar particularly helped Francesco in that first game, whereas the Electabuzz, that Electro Web was quite impactful on that first turn. Primarina is not the fastest Pokemon, but allowing it to outspeed both Pokemon on Francesco's side of the field on that first turn, while setting up and getting a +1 special attack boost thanks to the Throat Spray, that was very impactful. So that's already a 1-up for the Electabuzz versus Magmar debate. So I think the Dragapult and the Dragonite all both make perfect sense to bring to this game, but with the Dragonite, it seems like the set that Francesco is going for at least wants to be clicking Dragon Dance, wants to be setting up, getting a speed boost, but if that's just cancelled out with an Electro Web, well, that doesn't particularly work anymore. So maybe Francesco could leave the Dragonite in the back, take care of the Electabuzz, and then free themselves up to go for a Dragon Dance.
That's a really good shout, actually. It's one of the downsides of not having a clear body ability like the Dragapult does. It's like you're susceptible to those speed drops from Electro Web or Icy Wind or any moves that are pretty similar like that. I like it, JB. I think, the question for me, I suppose, is, how do you deal with that Electabuzz in the early game? Does Francesco need to bring in the Sneasler first, get some fake-out support going, maybe even just fake-out Dragon Dance? And just get yourself set up, stop the Electro Web by just not allowing it to work turn 1, and then you've got the Stomping Tantrum to be able to target down into the Electabuzz, do a little bit more damage that way.
Yeah, we saw the Stomping Tantrum damage in that first game. It seemed pretty reasonable, but it's not going to be Electabuzz and Primarina here at all. It seems like you've called it for Francesco at least. It's going to be Sneasler for both sides, paired up with both Dragons for both sides. So it might have been that Francesco was looking to go for that Fake Out and Dragon Dance. That's not really going to be the best of options in the face of an opposing Dragapult now.
No, and yeah, Dragon Darts is looking pretty terrifying right now, but because of those speed tiers, the Dragonite's multi-scale is, I think, going to come a little bit to the rescue here.
Yeah, but it's not in a focus as well, so you can be faked out.
Oh, you can be faked out, yeah. So used to looking at Dragapult and seeing that they're in a focus, yeah, absolutely. But then, you know, if Francesco does have the faster Sneasler, then maybe the fake out into Sneasler could be the safe option, but Francesco just switching it out instead.
Yeah, going to be switching out, and it could have been a Primarina switching in the place of a potential Dragonauts coming out from the Dragapult, but no, it's Magmar joining the field for Sneasler, and it is going to be an immediate turn 1 terrestrialization here, coming out from the Dragapult, going to be really turning on the offense here, going for that Terra Dragon to get the most out of those Dragonauts, or that Outrage if it wants to really turn on the offense here instead.
Protect coming out from the Sneasler, just making sure it's not getting faked out, not getting its focus sash broken. A Protect, if it's the Dragon Darts coming out here, both of them are now going to target into the Magmar with the Choice Band, with the same type attack bonus, with the Terra Dragon. Look at how much damage that Magmar is taking from those Dragon Darts.
Yeah, that was so much damage. That looks like another just single dart would be able to KO that Magmar now, which means that the second one would go into the Dragonite. So that just frees you up to go for a Dragon Dart into a Diaclaw. At least you do have the Lumberry on the Dragonite, so a secondary effect wouldn't come into play, but like a multi-scale broken Dragonite still taking very good damage from Sneasler, because there's no slouch in the attacking department at all.
But the Dragonite does have the option to go for its Terra Flying and remove at least its weakness to Dragon typing, and that's exactly what we're seeing here in reply. Dragonite just going for its Terra, trying to put some damage now onto the field. Maybe try to start pressuring down that Dragapult. If you don't deal with it quickly, those Dragon Darts damage is going to really add up.
Yeah, as for sure. Follow me coming out from the Magmar, trying to draw away those Dragon Darts, and it's definitely going to draw away the first one, but it seems like it's knocked out by just one of those darts. So Magmar is going to be felled here by that first Dragon Dart, and then here we go. It's not going to be able to hit the second one, because the Follow Me did actually take away the second, it seems. So Diaclaw, critical hit to make up for it though. Going to be able to break that multi-scale very nicely, and then the follow-up Terra Blast into the opposing Dragapult. So you're going to do absolutely massive damage, because Dragapult's not the bulkiest of Pokemon.
It's not the bulkiest of Pokemon, but it can take a hit, clearly, as we've seen here. And I'm struggling to see it. I tell you what, no, I've just. We are
no longer struggling to see.
We are no longer struggling to see, because the Dragonite is now a Terra Dragon. It's no longer immune to Fake Out. So this Sneasler coming in.
Might be in range as well.
What, from a Fake Out?
Maybe. Sneaser's pretty strong, and Dragapult's not. It's actually reasonably frail. So if it is in range, you can just take care of it straight away.
Well, that would be the ideal situation. Then you can go for a Terra Blast into the Sneasler and be able to take Sneasler down to his Focus Sash. You can knock out the Dragapult, but you've got to target down the Dragapult just to make sure, because if the Fake Out isn't enough to pick up the KO here, you're definitely risking that Dragapult being in the later stage, which it certainly will be after it's now switched out.
Yeah, very smartly preserving the Dragapult there. No reason to try and get it KO'd to a potential Fake Out coming out, and protect from Nicolo Sneasler as well, as the Electabuzz has joined the field. There was the Fake Out into the Electabuzz. Whether that was enough to be able to pick up the KO, we'll never know. It would have been, especially because of the Poison Touch. If that would have been activated on the Dragapult, yeah, that's definitely a KO. But instead, the Electabuzz gets poisoned, and there was that Terra Blast into the protecting Sneasler. So a really good switch in for that Electabuzz.
Nicolo is playing this game so well, really preserving his pieces, using them to their maximum benefit, knowing that the Dragonite probably isn't going to be able to knock out the Dragapult because it doesn't have that Dragon-type coverage. Instead, just doing a little bit of damage and then bringing it back in preparation for the late game, where there's not a lot of priority that Francesco has to play with in their team. There's no extreme speed on the Dragonite. That would be a big risk with the Dragonite being a Terra Dragon and that low HP range. So no reason to take a risk, just playing that conservatively, setting up and making sure that maybe you can get an Electro Web down onto the Sneasler. That makes it much easier to deal with. Just chipping away at that Dragonite and setting up for what is presumably a Primarina in the back.
Yeah, and there comes the Diaclaw from the... Oh, you're going to get the paralysis from the Diaclaw on the opposing Sneasler there. That should allow the Dragonite to outspeed if it weren't for this Electro Web that is going first from the Electabuzz. So,
close.
yeah, whether the Dragonite will outspeed this paralyzed Sneasler, it's going to be really close. But yeah, no, the Sneasler's still faster, even while paralyzed. And that's still enough to be able to pick up the KO on that Dragonite. So, yeah, the paralysis, it could have come into play there, but a very, very smart Electro Web. The Sash has been broken on the Sneasler as well, on top of being able to allow your Sneasler from Nicolo's side of the field to get that KO on the Dragonite.
And it is all about that broken focus Sash as well, because of the Dragapult in the back. It's probably going to be thinking about locking into a Phantom Force.
Yep.
But now Primarina comes in. It's the last Pokemon that Francesco is revealing, and yeah, it's in an okay spot to be able to do damage. If the Sneasler is fully paralyzed on Nicolo's side of the field, it does open the door for Primarina on Francesco's side to go for some damage, maybe remove it. But Nicolo playing safe, playing conservatively, and Francesco taking a little bit more of advantage of that, getting the attack boost, which won't affect the Primarina at all, but more importantly, getting the defense boost and setting it up for the end game. That is Francesco's route to victory, trying to make sure that the Primarina isn't knocked out by all these powerful physical threats.
Yeah, especially because now it's taken the Electro Webs. It's going to be slower than even the paralyzed Sneasler, so you need to be able to survive a Diaclaw, and with a coaching boost, you probably will be able to. Of course, you still have to contend with any of the secondary effects that could be coming out. The poison is slowly chipping away at this Electabuzz. It hasn't really been targeted too much, but it's down like to 25% of its health, but it's still able to fire off all of those Electro Webs. And yeah, once again, because now it's fired off 2 into the Sneasler, it outspeeds, and that's another drop, and that's -3 on the Sneasler. Nicolo's Sneasler should be moving first, even while paralyzed here.
But I think you do, if you're Francesco, need that Sneasler to be fully paralyzed a little bit and have the opportunity to get this Primarina set up and take a little bit less damage. But the Diaclaw does in fact go into Sneasler on Francesco's side. Another coaching comes in because the Sneasler was able to just about hang on there, and Hyper Voice with the Throat Spray activated is enough to take this double KO. We'll find out what is going to be paired up with the Dragapult in this endgame to be able to play against Francesco's last 2 Pokemon of Sneasler and Primarina. And of course, here it is, Primarina.
Yeah, Primarina should just about seal this up for Nicolo's side of the field. You can very safely go for your Phantom Force into the Primarina slot. The Sneasler is -3 of its speed at this point, so Primarina should be able to outspeed it. You can go for a Hyper Voice KO into the Sneasler. It's carrying coaching, no protect. You're guaranteed to get your Hyper Voice off, get that Throat Spray, and then the combination of Choice Band, Phantom Force, even at a +2 defense Primarina, in combination with a +1 special attack Primarina, should be able to seal up this game.
Well, it's the Hyper Voice going out first, as you rightly said. The Sneasler is going down. A critical hit on Primarina is just adding insult to injury there and just taking it down a little bit more. Throat Spray activating on Nicolo's Primarina, and it looks like with this final Phantom Moonblast coming out here, that did good damage, JB.
It's good damage. It's not going to be enough, though. The Choice Band Phantom Force is probably still going to be able to knock out this Primarina, even at +2. And even if it doesn't, the Primarina will be able to follow up. But yeah, Choice Band Phantom Force is still able to pick up that knockout. And there we have it. Nicolo is able to take down the veteran player in Francesco, move on to that 9-2 record, and secure their place in that top cut.